variable on both sides. When solving equations, the variable should be on one side of the equal sign. So if the variable is on both sides, then we need to move one variable to the other side by adding or subtracting. This will make more sense as we jump into the example. So example 1, the temperature in town A is 10 degrees and falling 2 degrees every hour. The temperature in town B is 4 degrees and rising 4 degrees every hour. So at what hour will town A and town B have the same temperature? So we're going to solve for x in the equation below, which will be how many hours away until they're the same temperature. So we have our equation below, right? We have 10 minus 2x is equal to 4x plus 4. So notice we have a variable on both sides. So what we want to do is move the variable so it's just on one side of the equal sign. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add 2x to both sides. Now, the alternative could have been to subtract minus 4x on both sides. But I want to get rid of this negative 2x to make it so it's just positive. So it stays, or x will stay positive. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this. But notice you could have gone the other direction, and then therefore you would have done a different route on it. You would have also got to the same correct answer. There's no one right way. Now we have 4x plus 2x. Well, what does that equal? Well, 4 plus 2 is just 6, and we just have it as x. And we have plus 4. So now we have 10 plus 0, so that's just 10, is equal to 6x plus 4. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to get x by itself. So our next step will be to remove the 4 on the right-hand side with the x. So we'll just go ahead and subtract 4 on both sides. This becomes 0, so we're left with just 6x on the right-hand side. So now we have 10 minus 4. Well, that's 6. So now what are we left with? We have 6 is equal to 6x. So we're really close to being done because we just need to solve for x. So how do we solve for x? Well, we divide by 6 on both sides, right? Then we just get x on the right-hand side. This just becomes 1. And then 6 divided by 6, well, that's 1. So x is equal to 1. So in 1 hour, the towns will have the same temperature. Now, let's go ahead and look at the next example. Example 2, we're going to solve for x in the equation below. So we have 30 minus 2x is equal to 8x. Well, we want to get x by itself. We notice on the right-hand side, right, besides the 8, it's kind of by itself, right? On the left-hand side, it has a whole number here. So we're going to go ahead and add 2x to both sides, right? Minus 2x plus 2x, well, that's just 0. So we can just bring down 30, right? Because 30 plus 0 is just equal to 30. We have our equal sign. Now 8x plus 2x is 10x. Now what's our next step? Well, our next step is to get x by itself. So we're going to go ahead and divide by 10 on both sides. This becomes just 1. Now 30 divided by 10, well, that's just equal to 3. So what does x equal? X is equal to 3. And so what that means is, and when we plug in the value for 3 here, right, 30 minus 2 times 3 is equal to 8 times 3. Well, 30 minus 6 is equal to 8 times 3, that's 24. 30 minus 6, that's 24. 24, it checks out. So the x is equal to 3, and that is a true solution. So we know we found the correct answer. So that's how we can check our answers. So let's move on to the last example. So example 3, we're going to solve for x in the equation below. So on the first example, right, we would have added this plus 9x to both sides. So our x's are positive. In this example, I'm going to show you how you could have done it differently. And this is by, we're going to go ahead and subtract 7x on both sides. So 7x minus 7x, 0, plus 4, that's on the left-hand side. Now we have minus 9x minus 7x, that's minus 16x, and then minus 22. Right, we just bring that down because we didn't do anything with it. Now our next step is to get, right, x more by itself. And so since we subtracted the x's on both sides, now we're going to go ahead and take care of just the numbers. So we can do this by adding 22 to both sides. So if we do it on the right-hand side, this just becomes 0. So we can just bring down the negative 16x. Now we have 4 plus 22, well, that's 26. So what would be our next step? Well, our next step would be to go minus 16. Right, we're going to go ahead and divide on both sides. Right, then we're just left with 1 because we had to do the negative. So we're left with just x on the right-hand side. The left-hand side, well, 26 over negative 16. Well, if it doesn't tell you to leave it as a fraction or decimal, you should be able to do both, but we have to for sure reduce the fraction, right? So you have 26 over 16. Well, that would be negative 13 over 8 as a reduced fraction. But also feel free to get your calculator out and go negative 13 divided by 8, and you should get your answer in the decimal form. All right, so that would be our solution.